3 of these now, and look how much is left, right? And this salmon only costs $8. 8! You're trying to tell me you're not gonna save money eating, cooking at home. Get the hell out of here.
Next up, vegetable tamaki. You're gonna start with 2 large portobello mushrooms and cut the cap into 3/4 inch slices. Turn the slices flat side down and cut off the black gills of the mushroom. Then using a sharp knife, score the flat side of the mushroom in a crosshatch pattern so it looks really cute and also so it cooks better. Do that again on the other side, then fill a medium skillet with enough oil to coat the bottom of the pan. Heat it over medium heat until it is ripping hot. Then lay in your mushrooms, avoid overcrowding the pan. I like to use something to press it down. This is a chef press. I love these things, use them all the time. Then let it sear for about 2 to 3 minutes. Give them a little flip to look at one of the most beautiful mushroom sears I've ever seen. Season it to taste with salt and sear for another 2 minutes. Then remove the pan and repeat with the rest. Now, small bowl, combine a 1/4 cup of fresh mint leaves, a 1/4 cup of fresh cilantro leaves, and a 1/4 cup of fresh Thai basil leaves. Toss it together until you've got a fragrant, herbaceous forest of flavor. Now for assembly, get a half sheet of nori, spread out your rice, add on 1/8 of an avocado, brush your avocado with soy sauce, add your seared mushroom, a nice cuke baton, thinly sliced green onion, and some of your herb salad. Oh, and last but not least, a nice handful of fried shallots. Then roll that absolute unit up, nice and tight, and marvel at its beauty. But more specifically, this amazing price for 8 total tamaki, meaning each tamaki will cost you this right here.
We got a tamaki hand roll. We've done this before, obviously, but this is with the focus of it being affordable. This is a vegetarian. I think it's vegetarian. And vegan, I think. I didn't really think it that much through. All I know is that it's mostly vegetables and there's no meat or animal products, I think, in here. Anyway. A lot of people are like, Josh, why don't you give the vegetarians attention? I'm doing it. Granted, it's in the exact same format as before, but it doesn't matter, okay? You can have this easy to make, beautifully curated flavor for this price right here.
Okay, we saved the best for last. A glazed pork belly maki roll. Before we start playing with our meat, get yourself 2 nice, large, thick, juicy, girthy carrots. Peel them, then julienne them as fine as possible. I actually used a julienne peeler. Sure, it's cheating, but it works really well and it's fast. Link in the description for that. Place them in a jar so that they all fit nice and snug in there. In a medium saucepan, add 2 cups of vinegar, 1 cup of water, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of sugar. Set that over medium-high heat, and as soon as it reaches a boil, immediately pour that over your carrots. Ensure that the carrots stay completely submerged and let them sit until they reach room temperature. Bang! Pickled carrots. Oh, and you can add a splash of shiradashi for some umami, and you know how Papa feels about that. Next, you're gonna need 2 pounds of skinless pork belly. This one was much more than I needed for the record. Cut that in half so you get 2 even squares, then slice that into 2-inch thick pieces so they look like these. And dude, don't forget to take a pic for the gram. Optionally, you can score the fat cap of your pork in a crosshatch pattern to help the fat render out. Then heat the pan over medium-high heat, spray it lightly with cooking oil. You don't need much in here. You just need it so it doesn't stick. Once that's screaming hot, season your pork generously with salt, lay them in the pan. Optionally, you can add any spices you like. I hit mine with some 5 spice and sear for about 2 to 3 minutes or until it reaches a beautiful golden brown. Then give them a flip. Once the other side is seared, tilt the pan and crisp the fat cap up in the corner where all the fat is pooling, just until it's nicely browned and looking like a snack. Now these are still raw in the center, so pop that in the oven at 375 Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes or until cooked through. Then optionally, when they're done, brush them with a little hoisin sauce. You only need around a half cup of that. Once each piece is evenly coated in hoisin, caramelize that glaze either under a broiler or, if you're cool, use a kitchen torch until it looks nice and glossy and icky sticky. Now we're almost there. Get 1 bunch of green onions, cut off their root bottom and the green parts, so you're left with whites and just a touch of green. Then heat 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil over medium-high heat until shimmering. Add your green onions and sear, tossing occasionally for about 3 to 4 minutes or until you get some nice char and caramelization. Season that to taste with salt and set to the side. Alright, assembly time. This time get a full sheet of nori, place it on a sushi mat, add enough rice to evenly spread out to the edges, leaving 1 inch of space at the top. Make sure you don't spread the rice too thick. This was on the border of too much rice, so practice until it's how you like it. Now snag a piece of pork belly, cut it in half if it's really wide, then slice those pieces in half lengthwise so you get 2 thinner pieces of belly. Place those on your rice at the bottom of the roll, leaving a little bit of space from the edge. Layer on a couple pieces of seared green onion, a generous handful of your pickled carrots, optionally but very highly recommended, some thinly sliced Thai chili, a handful of your herb salad from earlier, then roll it up halfway, give it a light crimp, and then roll it up the rest of the way until the edge is closed and give it 1 more good crimp, but don't, strangulate the darn thing. Then take it out and look at that lovely log. To slice, get an extremely sharp, long knife. Gently begin cutting until you reach about halfway down, then use the length of your knife and draw all the way back to slice the rest of the way through the roll. That way you get a nice clean cut. Then do that all the way down your roll and take a look at this beauty. So we have this beautiful fancy roll that comes in at a price of this for 6 to 8 rolls. That means you're paying this for each roll. Pretty goddamn good deal if I ever seen one.
Last but not least is a classic makimono roll, sliced, of course. I decided to go the meat route.
Sacrilege, I know.
I did a lot of things that are sacrilegious today, but this looks damn good. You got the pork belly. It's glazed. It's roasted. It's fatty. Pickled carrot. It's salty umami. I had a splash of sriracha because I like it. Grilled green onion. You know, you can't go wrong with that. So, without further ado, that was intrusive. I've never had something disappear into my mouth like that before. The meat is fatty and hot and sweet. The pickled carrots immediately cut the richness. It's chewy. I feel like this hits all the notes that I want in a sushi roll. Great with fish too, but you know, there's nothing wrong with a nice fatty piece of glazed pork belly, or barbecue pork belly if you will, in a maki roll. And it looks pretty. Look, did you want to give it a kiss? If you want sushi and you don't want to spend a ton of money on it, you've come to the right place. You can have any of these rolls for this price, or this price. It's up to you.
You want to know what else is a thick log filled with various surprises and ready to be consumed? B-roll.
And that is it. So we made 3 different kinds of sushi rolls. Well, tamaki and 1 makimono, but you get the point. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to give you implications, ways that you can fill a sushi roll. But you can do it however you want, fill it with whatever you want. You don't have to follow these recipes to a T. It's just a guide. It's just to get you started. If you just put vegetables in a sushi roll, like it's rice, nori, vegetables, costs you like $1, stop making excuses.
Dang it.
Anyway, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. And the sun's going away. Bye! This is perhaps one of the most luxurious and expensive items on a holiday menu. You know what? For what reason? Because we can make it for this price right here. If that doesn't get your britches all
Popped up.
then I don't know what will. This is butt cheaper. Okay, so today we're making beef Wellington, or well, Wellington in general, and we're gonna be looking at a couple things. For one, tenderness, flavor, obviously beef, and more importantly, price. Tenderloin is expensive. There's only a little tiny piece of the cow that's the tenderloin. There's a whole cow. Here's the whole cow, okay? That's the whole cow. And this is the tenderloin. Oh, little baby. That's why it's expensive, because just to get your precious beef Wellington, you have to a whole cow for it. There's a lot of dogma with Wellington, and Gordon, if you're watching this, obviously tenderloin is the best way to go. But if you're looking to cut costs, there is a way to do it, and we're gonna talk about exactly how you can.
Okay folks, I got 2 options for you here, both totaling out to this cost each. Not bad if you ask me. For a more traditional beef Wellington, we got a little creative and replaced the tenderloin with an eye of round roast, which comes out to this cost for a 2.5 pound roast, as opposed to a $60 to $80 cost for a center cut Chateau tenderloin. Eye of round is chewy, but I've got a small trick up my sleeve. First, let's talk duxelle, the mushroom paste. You're gonna begin with 1 pound of cremini mushrooms, which I first like to slice very thinly, not to flex, but observe the speed, thank you. Then give them a nice rolling chop until they're as finely chopped as I can make them. Alternatively, you can do this in a food processor, but I thought it would be the more economical way, like this. In a medium skillet, add 2 tablespoons or 30 milliliters of olive oil. Heat that over medium heat. Once that's hot, add 2 finely chopped shallots, season that to taste with salt, and saute those until very soft. About 4 to 6 minutes. Then add all of your mushrooms, season that to taste with salt again, and let those cook, stirring often. They'll start to kind of dry out, then they'll release a bunch of moisture. Don't worry, just keep cooking them down until nearly all the moisture is gone and they begin to turn to a paste. You can also use a handheld masher to help with this process. Then after about 3 to 4 minutes, they should be done. Turn off the heat, add 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter and 3 cloves of finely chopped garlic. Stir that until thoroughly combined and the butter is melted, then just adjust the salt and pepper levels. Next, my meat. Yeah, we're there again. Now pat your roast dry with a paper towel, season it to taste with salt and pepper, then heat a medium-sized skillet over medium-high heat, add just enough oil to coat the bottom of the pan, and once it's super hot and nearly smoking, add in your eye of round roast and sear for 2 to 3 minutes per side or until it's beautifully browned on each and every crevice, even both ends. Now optionally you can add in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter and baste it for about 30 seconds. Then just place it to the side, pour any butter or juices in the pan over the roast. Now due to its immense thickness, the inside needs a little more cooking before it's baked. Pop it in an oven that's been preheated to 400 Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes. You want it to still be rare after this. This just helps break down some of the chewiness and keeps it from being undercooked later, assuming your roast is as thicky as mine. Now once it's out of the oven, immediately brush your roast with Dijon mustard. You'll need about a quarter cup, but you may not use all of it. Now to assemble, it's very simple. Lay down 2 sheets of plastic wrap, one slightly overlapping the other. Then lay down 4 to 6 slices of ham or mortadella. By the way, I'd recommend getting it sliced from the deli to get the exact amount that you want. It's the most economical choice. Then top that with half of your duxelle mixture. Spread that out to cover the meat, leaving a slight border around the edges. Lay your chonker on the lower third of that. Then using the plastic wrap, roll that guy all the way up and wrap your beef entirely with the cured meat. Crimp the edges, roll that together tightly, and chill for 20 minutes. Really emphasize that 20. Next, roll out a sheet of puff pastry so it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. Look, using a boxed version or homemade is fine, but honestly, sometimes boxed is actually less expensive in this case, which makes Papa kinda sad. Just make it if you can, okay, please. Anyway, place your beefy hog in the lower third of your puff pastry. Brush a border around the pastry with egg wash, which consists of 2 egg yolks and a splash of water that's been mixed together. Start rolling your pastry up, and once you see where the seams will meet, brush some more egg wash on there. Trim your pastry just slightly above that so it glues shut. Then roll that over, crimp the edges, and roll it in plastic wrap tightly. Again, rotating those edges so it's nice and tight. Chill for another 15 minutes. Then when it's bake time, place your welly on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Optionally, you can add some additional puff pastry that's been latticed on top of that, which you can see how to do in my old beef Wellington video. But either way, you're gonna brush your welly with your same egg wash from before, then add the lattice crust if you're using it. Brush it again. If you're not using it, then just brush it once, obviously. Once it's evenly coated with egg wash, you can optionally hit it with some flaky salt, toss it into an oven preheated to 400 Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes, or until beautifully golden brown on the outside, and an internal temp of the beef is around 135 Fahrenheit. Then remove it and let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes before slicing. Then all you need to do is get a nice knife and slice to reveal a bada bing, bada boom, beautifully medium rare, affordable Wellington. It's actually a little bit overdone around the edges, but here's a hot take for you. The intramuscular fiber of this beef actually eats a little bit better when it's cooked just a touch past medium rare. With that said, this looks beautiful. But maybe you want to go a little bit cheaper and a little less traditional. Say, a pork Wellington. Nearly the same process, but with a 1.5 pound pork tenderloin. Simply sear on all sides, just like last time, baste it in the butter, same as before, but beautifully, of course. I mean, look at that foamy butter. It really should look like that, okay? Please. If it doesn't, Papa no kiss you. If it's super thick, you can toss it in an oven at 400 for 10 minutes, but I could already tell that this was a little over medium rare after searing, and it'll coast to a nice medium in the oven. Now brush it with your mustard and set to the side. Now the filling's gonna be a little bit different. First, peel and grate 1 Granny Smith apple, then in a medium skillet, add 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, heat that over medium heat, then once the butter is melted and bubbling, add in your grated apple, stir that together, season it with salt, and optionally 2 teaspoons of honey. Now once that starts to boil, let it simmer until all of the liquid is evaporated and the apple begins to stick to the pan. Then deglaze with a 1/4 cup of white wine, let that cook down and reduce until 90% of the wine is evaporated, then add in 1/3 of your duxelle from earlier and fold together. Be sure to let that bad boy cool before using. Yet again, lay down your mortadella. I only needed about 4 slices for this one. Then this time hit it with all of your apple filling, your beautiful pork tenderloin. Just roll that up nicely to wrap your pork with more pork, tighten the edges, and pop in the fridge to chill for 15 minutes. Then you know what to do. Roll out your puff pastry, lay down your meat log, brush with wash, roll that beauty up, trim it again, and brush the final edge with egg wash. Then wrap it up and chill for 15 minutes. Then brush again with egg wash, decorate if desired, wash again, hit it with a fat salty layer, and bake at 400 for 25 minutes or until beautiful, bruv. Right, you just want to kiss it right on the forehead. Rest that for 5 minutes, slice it nice and thick, and weep at what may just be a delicious, albeit untraditional, Wellington. And yes, that's cooked to medium, okay? I don't want to hear that, oh Josh, that's raw, what the heck? I temp checked it. Don't at me, or I'll temp check your. Let's compare these 2 wellies to see if their taste matches their price.
We have 2 Wellingtons. We got a pork one, we got a beef one. Now the reason why I chose the pork, well, for one, it's just a cheaper cut, and I had a feeling this may be too tough with the eye of round. We'll start with the beef one. It's feeling pretty tendy. Nice medium rare. This is good. In comparison to a tenderloin, obviously this is chewier, but it's really not bad. I will say that it depends on the eye round you get. Sometimes eye rounds are a little more tough than they should be, but this is totally a great option if you can't afford it or you don't want to spend the money on it. If you want something more tender that isn't beef, pork tenderloin, we got an apple mushroom duxelle filling. I mean, that's fancy sounding, and it only costs that much.
Purina Cat Chow for cats of all ages. Curious kittens. Cuddly seniors.
We doggone did something here. Wow, this is actually really good. I've never had a pork Wellington before. Out of these two options, this pork tenderloin is extremely satisfying, even in comparison to something as rich as beef. This is so freaking good. Let me tell. Oh no. If you want something more tender that's cheaper and honestly really hits all the notes you want, this is the way to go. If you still want that beefy quality, but you want it to be cheap, Eye of Round works just fine. You've got two Wellingtons here, both of them for this price, and for this price, okay? What are you gonna do about that?
You wanna know what else is a fat log wrapped in buttery layers? B-roll.
Guys, and that is it. So we made beef Wellington actually two different ways. We made one with beef, as it should be. In order to eat beef Wellington, you gotta beef. And then we made another option, which is even more tender than the Eye of Round. Obviously, as the price goes down, oftentimes so does the tenderness when it comes to beef. Like I said before, you could sous vide the beef Wellington and it could end up being a lot less chewy. You'll just have to do it for like 48 hours at a really low temperature. That's up to you to figure out, but nonetheless, this worked just fine. The pork, big win, humongous win. I've never had a Wellington that's not beef, and that's really opened up my mind, and obviously, hopefully, will open up your wallet. So, long story short, but cheaper, beef Wellington, big win. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, I'm drooling in my mouth, and I will see you next time.
This forest is a magical place.
From Disney on March 21st.
It's a human. What did you think I was?
Nothing. Ghost. It's full speed ahead to a brand new adventure.
I'm the only sensible one here.
I take your point, Mr. Grumpy.
Disney Snow White. Rated PG. In theaters March 21st.
Thanksgiving dinner can be cheap or expensive, but oftentimes it ends up being expensive because you buy more than you need, blah, 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 blah. But I think that we can make it for less than $50, and that is but cheaper. I feel like personally I spend a ton of money on Thanksgiving, but supposedly the average is $50 for a 10-person meal. That's not true. There's no way that that is true. Every time I have Thanksgiving for 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 people, it's gonna be well over $500 marker, potentially into the $1,000 marker, because we're buying tons of butter and nice ingredients and yada, 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 yada. The point is, it can be cheap or it can be expensive, but we're gonna look at the cheapest possible way to make the nicest Thanksgiving that we possibly can for this price. So with all that said, let's make this, shall we? Really quick, before we start the video, I just wanna remind everybody to go to the link in the description and watch Cody Co and I's collab. We ate pie, we had fun, it was great. I showed him how to cut a slice of pie because he could use some work on that. There'll be a link in the description for his episode of Sweet Tooth, so go check that out. And we have a couple other videos together coming soon.
Okay, so a couple things to note. You might have a smaller Thanksgiving than usual, which makes sense. So this will account for about 10 to 15 people. Let's first talk turkey. Believe it or not, I got mine for $7 because I bought it early and I bought it frozen, which usually gets you a pretty insane deal. Otherwise, it'll be around $17. So get your plump boy out, address him, of course, and save the turkey neck, that is a neck, It looks a little funny, but that's a neck, okay? Get your mind out of the gutter, please. Now, using good kitchen shears, very specifically good, otherwise this will happen, which is sad. Then you're gonna cut along both sides of the turkey's back to carefully remove the spine like this. Save that as well. Then take your turkey, place it cut side down, arrange the legs, and press firmly on the breast to flatten the bird. You've now spatchcocked. Yes, that's a real term, your turkey. Instead of going back and buying stock just for gravy, take the turkey neck and the spine, place it in a pot along with 1 rough chopped onion, 1 rough chopped carrot, and 1 rough chopped rib of celery. Cover it with 6 cups of water or enough to completely cover the bones, whichever comes first. Then place it on your stove over medium-high heat, and as soon as it comes to a boil, reduce to low and let it simmer for 3 hours. And once it's done, just strain out all the vegetables and meaty bits so that you've got a lovely turkey stock. Okay, so what about bread? If you want the good stuff, it's gonna cost you. So instead, I made my dinner roll recipe, which is extremely cheap, very, very easy to make, and well, just feels good, brother. All you gotta do is rise the dough, punch it down, shape it, place it in an 8x8 container, proof it, bake the brother, hit it with a fatty of melted butter, and finish it with flaky salt. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Beautifully perfect, and they cost a grand total of bada bing, dis right here. That's pretty good for a fine bakery style bun. Most cranberry sauces are usually as tasty as they are expensive, and by that I mean they're cheap and they make Papa sad. So if you just use fresh cranberries, you'll have a much nicer time. In a medium-sized sauce pot, add 1 12-ounce package of fresh cranberries, 1 cup or 130 grams of granulated sugar, half a cup or 120 milliliters of filtered water, and finally, the zest and juice of 1 orange. You can also use lemon if you prefer. Place it on the stove over medium-high heat, stirring occasionally until it comes to a boil, then reduce the heat to low and let that brother simmer for about 15 minutes or until thickened and syrupy. Then just let it cool completely, and yes, that's it. You have a lovely, perfect cranberry sauce. Now we've got stuffing, or, well, dressing? I don't know. I find this argument to be very annoying. Oh, Josh, it's not stuffing unless it's stuffed in the orifice of a bird. Blah, blah, blah. It achieves the same thing, really. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. I'm sure people are gonna get mad at me about that. This is a perfect recipe where if you have leftover bread like I do, then you're in a good spot to save a ton of money. Either way, you'll need 2 large loaves of bread, ideally sourdough. It can also be a mix of 2 kinds like you see here. Then slice both of those loaves into 1-inch neat cubes. Give it a light drizzle of olive oil, place those all on a baking sheet, and place it in the oven. Set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 to 20 minutes or until toasted and dry. Dump that into a large bowl and set to the side. In a medium-sized sauce pot, add 3/4 of a cup or 168 grams of unsalted butter. Heat that over medium heat until melted and bubbling. Then add 5 finely diced shallots, 3 ribs of sliced celery, and 4 cloves of rough chopped garlic. Season that to taste with salt and pepper and saute just until those guys start to soften. Then add 1 tablespoon or 6 grams of fresh chopped sage and 1 tablespoon or 4 grams of finely chopped fresh thyme, along with a handful of finely chopped fresh parsley. Stir and cook until fragrant, about 20 more seconds. Then add 1 cup of turkey stock or chicken stock if you didn't make it and you're trying to make me upset. Bring that up to a steamy heat, then pour that all over your toasted bread. Toss together until thoroughly combined. Now separately whisk together 1 more cup of stock and 2 whole eggs until thoroughly combined. Pour that over your bread and toss together once more. Then spray a 9x13 baking dish with oil, add in all of your soaked bread, and place it in an oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius for 35 to 45 minutes, or until cooked through and the top is beautifully browned and crisp. That there is a classy looking dressing with a bit more of a sophisticated flavor. Now the main event, Mr. Redundant, Thanksgiving turkey. Look, I'm tired of it, but we're doing it anyway. Start off with a medium-sized bowl and add 3/4 of a cup or 168 grams of unsalted softened butter, 1.5 teaspoons of MSG, yes, we're doing that, 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt, and 3 cloves of freshly grated garlic. Mix that together until thoroughly combined, and you've got a garlic MSG butter. Wield its massive power with great care and responsibility.
Oh yeah!
Now season your turkey generously with salt and pepper. Take half that butter and rub it all over your turkey. Really give your bird a nice little massage. A sort of papa style massage. I also like to put a little bit underneath the skin as well so it coats the meat while roasting. Normally I would place this on a wire rack set over a baking sheet to roast, but for some reason I tried to fit it in a roasting pan with vegetables and, well, long story short, if you do that, it's going to take way too long for your bird to cook. So I'd recommend a baking sheet instead, so air can circulate around it. Anyway, pop your turkey in the oven, set to 450 Fahrenheit or 232 Celsius for 50 to 60 minutes or until the skin is a gorgeous golden brown and the deepest part of the turkey clocks in at around 165 Fahrenheit. Let your bird rest for at least 20 minutes, then carve it up and slice the meat into nice even pieces. Now for vegetable sides, I actually prefer to toss this into the oven while the turkey's still roasting. But either way, get yourself 1 to 2 large butternut squash, peel them all the way down, cut their bottoms and tops off, then cut that big feller in half, remove all the seeds, also known as the part that made us gag when we were kids. I know you know. Okay, if you know, you know. Then just cut your butternut into nice even 1-inch cubes like you see right here. Place them in a large bowl, toss with enough oil to coat them, season to taste with salt and pepper. I actually really like these with a nice curry seasoning. This one is a Vadavon spice blend. Toss together again until evenly coated and seasoned. Now dump them onto a foil-lined baking sheet, place in an oven set to 450 Fahrenheit or 232 Celsius for 30 minutes or until cooked through and lightly caramelized. Separately, I do the same process with green beans. Get yourself 1.5 to 2 pounds of green beans, hit them with a nice glug of olive oil, season them with salt and pepper to taste, and obviously any other seasonings you want, and roast at the same temp, but this time for only 20 minutes or until nicely cooked with a little bit of snap left in them. Then just finish them with some lemon juice and flaky salt optionally. So for your mashed taters, it's real simple. Go ahead and peel 2.5 pounds of a nice starchy potato like russet. Yukon Golds also work fine. Cut them into 1.5-inch cubes that are ideally nice and even. Toss them in a nice pot, cover them with water, season that water generously with salt, then just boil those guys for about 10 minutes, then drain your potatoes through a colander or a mesh sieve and place them back in the original pot that they were in. In a separate sauce pot, add 1/2 cup of unsalted butter and 1/2 cup of whole milk. Set that over medium heat and let that heat up until the butter is fully melted and the mixture is nice and hot. Using a handheld masher, crush and mash up your potatoes as fine as they'll go, then add your milky butter mixture, mash that in nicely, then mix in 1/3 cup of sour cream. From there, just season your potatoes with salt and pepper. Make sure your potatoes are seasoned nicely. Optionally, you can add chives here too. Now, right before the turkey is served, you'll need to make your gravy. It's really so much easier than people realize. Please make your own. In a medium saucepan, heat 3.5 tablespoons of unsalted butter over medium heat. Then once it's completely melted, whisk in 3.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Then just keep cooking and whisking for about 30 seconds just to cook out some of that flour. Then slowly whisk in 2.5 cups of your turkey stock, which is free. It's free real estate, what can I say? Keep whisking and heating until it thickens, and you'll have a lovely gravy. Then just season it to taste with salt and pepper, and optionally you can add some chopped herbs, like fresh chopped thyme or whatever you're feeling. What's the herb vibe today, really? And that is gravy. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Josh, what about pie? Well, for one, pumpkin pie isn't just the most common choice, but it's also one of the cheapest options as well. I use my pumpkin pie recipe, which uses real pumpkin. And obviously you can find that on the channel here or in the links in the description. Look at me, always reminding you to tell you guys to go in the link in the description. Oh my gosh.
I'm Philomena, founder of Ken Apparel. I love my natural hair, but not what hoodies and hats were doing to it.
Now, what we have in front of us here is a feast fit for a king. Well, a frugal one, but nonetheless, he do be eating kind of good though. For this price, don't think you can beat it.
So this is but cheaper at night. We had all of this made for the measly price said right here. Grand total, that's not half bad. I think we did a pretty darn good job. It comes down to simplifying the menu and just using technique to make things taste great without a multitude of ingredients. Without further ado, the thing that makes this meal special is a little friend I like to call MSG. The MSG butter that I made in this, in my opinion, is the most applicable, universal, amazing thing in the world. I could eat that alone all day. Cranberry sauce, sugar, orange juice, and cranberries. And it's about 100 times better than that fruity sausage that slithers out of a can and plops onto your plate. Not to say that I'm pooping on anybody, because the cranberry sauce already did it for me, but just make it your damn self. Let's also introduce the turkey, which also has the MSG butter. Somehow, the turkey tastes more like turkey. Second off, not dry. I'm gonna say this one last time. A turkey should be perfectly juicy and flavorful and tender. With or without the MSG, just cook it right, okay? I'm not gonna taste every single thing on this plate. The stuffing is amazing, the turkey is amazing, potatoes, everything is good. Oh, I gotta eat this too. Obviously it's good, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it. So you don't have to spend $1,000 or $500 or whatever on a Thanksgiving meal for 10 to 15 people. You can definitely do it for under $100. If that's not but cheaper, then I don't know what the hell is, brother. The sun's about to go down, so I think it's time to be,
You wanna know what else is full of a misleading story about pilgrims? B-roll.
All right, guys, and that is it. So we made Thanksgiving dinner and it was beautiful. It was a great Thanksgiving dinner. It wasn't like the basic choices of like a little turkey and some salad and a little bit of mashed potatoes with a bland gravy. We threw in some MSG. We got a little culinary, you know, like something like that. I don't know what I'm saying, but yes. On an unrelated note, I got my hair cut recently and everyone on Instagram was saying that I look like Lord Farquaad. If I look like Lord Farquaad, let us know in the comments below. But with all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. next time. Like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.
It matters late at night.
Hi, Alex. Nice to see you again.
Because sometimes that's when you need us most. Where you get your medicine matters.
So you go out to go get pasta and it's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, $20? I've got 3 different kinds for less than $2 per serving. That is but cheaper. Whenever I go out to eat, I'll order pasta if I'm at a great restaurant. Of course, a good restaurant makes great pasta. It's always worth the money, but usually it's like $18, $20, and you can make this stuff at home for a fraction of the price. So it's a perfect but cheaper candidate. Why we're here talking about it, you, me, and Tycoon and TJ. Oh my God, workplace romanticism. We're gonna talk about 3 different ways to make a great pasta as cheaply as physically possible. I could go on and on about pasta. Rather than talking about it, I think we should be about it, and let's do this, shall we?
Right, so before we get started, I'd like to mention pasta shape. Dried spaghetti works excellent with all these sauces and is an ultra cheap $1 to $2 per pound option. Anyway, sauce number 1 is a chef and home cook favorite, Marcella Hazan's classic onion butter tomato sauce. In a medium sauce pot, add a 28-ounce can of peeled Roma tomatoes. The Cento brand cost me about $3, but you could go even cheaper here if you want. Add in 1 whole onion that's been sliced in half, peeled with the root still attached, and 5 tablespoons or 70 grams of unsalted butter. Give that a light seasoning of salt to taste and a small pinch of sugar, then place it on a stove over medium heat, bring that up to a gentle simmer, and lower the heat to medium-low. Simmer there for 45 minutes, stirring occasionally, mashing the whole pieces of tomato against the wall of the pan until you get a lovely sauce like this. Then simply remove the onion, discard it, and adjust the salt levels to your taste. From there, you can boil 1 pound of spaghetti or bucatini to a nice al dente texture. It should be al dente, all right? That's the right way. And make sure to season your pasta water generously with salt. I want this bad boy as salty as the ocean. Then toss your drained pasta and all of your tomato sauce with a little splash of reserved pasta water. Then plate that up and enjoy with some fresh shaved Parmigiano Reggiano should you desire it. Now, not including the cheese, this bad boy sits at a solid $1.60 per serving. The cheese tacks on like another 30 cents to $1. Right, so next up we've got a surprise, Alfredo, which is shockingly affordable to make. In a large saucepan, add 4 tablespoons or 56 grams of unsalted butter, heat over medium heat till melted and bubbling. Then add 1 cup or 240 milliliters of heavy cream. Bring that to a nice simmer and let that simmer away for about 1 to 2 minutes or till emulsified and beginning to slightly thicken. Then turn off the heat and whisk in 1.5 cups or 110 grams of finely grated Parmigiano Reggiano. Keep whisking until completely melted and emulsified, then finish with 2 cloves of freshly grated garlic, some fresh cracked black pepper, and salt to taste. Separately, boil 1 pound of a nice wide noodle, such as pappardelle, and then just toss that with your sauce along with a splash or 2 of pasta water, and serve that bad boy with some extra cheese and black pepper on top. Bon appetit to you too. Last but certainly not least is both a friend to our wallet as it is to our heart and souls. Pasta aglio e olio. How was that, Italians? Did I do good? Let me know. Can't wait to get yelled at. Very excited. Now go ahead and boil yourself 1 pound of spaghetti, or as the Italians say, spaghetti. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Don't forget to heavy season that water, by the way. Now, when your pasta is almost done, in a large saute pan, add a 1/3 cup or 80 mils of extra virgin olive oil. Heat that over medium heat till hot. It's a lot of heating. Then add 7 cloves of very finely chopped garlic and 1 teaspoon or 5 grams of red pepper flakes. Saute that beauty until fragrant and nice, about 3 minutes. Now, once your pasta is done, reserve about 1/2 cup of the pasta water, drain your pasta, and add it immediately to your hot oil. Turn off the heat and toss aggressively, splashing with a little pasta water until you've got a nice coating of oil. Season that generously with salt to taste, and finish with 1/2 cup or 12 grams of very finely chopped fresh parsley. Plate that bad boy up nice and tall. Feel free to grate some parm on top should you desire it, and that right there is one of the simplest yet greatest pasta dishes of all time. So we have 3 pastas that each have plenty of wallet saving potential, and you can add your budget protein of choice if you wish, but now I think it's time that we talk about how they taste.
It's a pasta time! Pasta aglio e olio. This is perhaps the most affordable, easy to make pasta in all of history. With all that said, that puts this plate of pasta at this number right here. This is something everyone should know how to make, and if you don't already, and I've talked about it before, so has our boy Babish. Babby, I love you. So let's dig in. Oh my God. Pasta aglio e olio encompasses, although a tongue twister, it sings harmonies on your tongue as well. That doesn't make sense. It's got all the qualities you want in a plate of pasta. It's rich, but not too rich. It's garlicky, but in a subtle way. There's a little bit of kick from the garlic. There's a little bit of spice from the red pepper flakes. And there's a little bit of chew from the pasta. It's a good pasta. This is what a pasta should be. This takes 10 minutes. Take the damn time. Alfredo. This is something that I think a lot of kids hold near and dear to their heart. You know, you go out with your family. It's a Saturday night. School, not happening. What even is school? ABCs? I don't know. But one thing you are looking forward to is the Alfredo that's finna hit right in front of you. That could have broken. If your Alfredo doesn't do that, I don't want it. On your first bite, you're gonna ask, why did I ever pay $17 for this? So simple. So easy. Ingredients that aren't really even that expensive. There's nothing exotic about it, and it's not that hard to make. 5 minutes of boiling and simmering and stirring, and that's what you're paying $17 for when you go out. So this comes in at this price per serving. Now granted, that's without chicken, but like you incorporate chicken, you might tack on $1 or $2 to that. Big whoop. Much better than 17. This is one that I've talked to you guys about before. I hold this very near and dear to my heart. A lot of the Italian cooking that I learned when I was a young kid was from Marcella Hazan. Marcella, shout out to her. This is her classic. Everyone knows this. The OG, onion and butter, tomato sauce. So simple, makes you want to cry. Obviously, the simplicity in the ingredients, this is gonna automatically make it cheap, but the key point is this is a perfectly balanced. Like you take a bite and you're like, balancing, right? But it's perfectly balanced, so you're not doing that. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy. The sweetness from the onion combats the over acidity of the tomato, so it's nice and smooth tasting. It's salty, it's got richness from the butter. This is truly perfect tomato sauce, and you can make the whole darn thing less than $6.50.
But do you want to know what else has nice nudes and is coated in sauce? B-roll.
All right guys, and that is it. So we made 3 different kinds of pasta: Alfredo, pasta aglio olio, and what was the third one again? How could I forget? Marcella Hazan's greatest tomato sauce of all time. It's so beautifully simple and cheap. There's a message here. And the message is simple ingredients, cared for. It's not supposed to be expensive. It's just beauty and simplicity, technique, and a little bit of love, bruv. I hope you learned something. Also, I keep having the conversation back and forth about being in the cabinet, not in the cabinet. We're out of the cabinet again because sometimes we remember to put the camera here and sometimes we don't. So you tell us what you want to see in the comments below. So with all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Good night. Stinky.
Clorox Scentiva cleans like Clorox. Smells like lavender.
Try Crest 3D White. Finally, a daily whitening toothpaste for whiter teeth in one day.
I think charcuterie boards are associated with 2 things: an 86th wallet and the benefit being a large assortment of food. But I think you can still have that large assortment that fits within just about anyone's budget. That is charcuterie, but cheaper. Okay, so today we're working with charcuterie boards, meat and cheese boards, cured meat boards, with the boards. Usually whenever I personally make a charcuterie board and I'm going all out, some of the stuff I'll make, and obviously some of the cured meats that, you know, take literal months. I've yet to make my own prosciutto, but that's coming, trust me. Typically I end up spending anywhere between $100 to $300 for a giant spread, and that's to feed a lot of people, for the record, but still. I think at this point, the assumption is that is a requirement if you want to make a charcuterie board, and I'm here to tell you that that's just not true. So with all that said, let's make this, shall we?
Okay, so we're first gonna break this down into categories: meat, cheese, crunch, pickly/briny, and sweet/fruity. Let's first start with cheese.
For the more expensive side, we've got Gouda or Gouda for those who are Dutch and are going to yell at me. Brie Classic Triple Creme. Now this is Tome, right? This is a French cheese. It is made with goat's milk. It's beautiful and it's expensive. Now on the cheaper side, we're not really downgrading all that much. You've got a beautiful block of cheddar. This is a medium cheddar. It's lightly aged. This is a lightly aged Gouda or Gouda. So you've got your herbed Havarti. Havarti is a cheese where its texture and flavor goes a long way with how much it costs. And cream cheese, which I understand. You're like, what is that doing on a cheese board? We're gonna be doing something fancy to it. So with that said, let's move on to the next part.
Oh, and one last cheese, which is blue cheese. And I know a lot of people get mad at me for this, and it's a yucky for me, and I don't like it, okay? And I know a lot of people are like, Josh, so uncultured, you don't like this moldy, nasty, farty, stinky, poopy cheese. Fart? Look, I like stinky cheese as much as the next guy. This just tastes like a stiff sock, okay? Not good. Now let's talk about meats. For the expensive board, you might choose something like a nice Genoa salami, calabrese, some aged prosciutto, which all start at quite the price, as you can see. They're amazing, and I would pay that. But if you want a cheaper counterpart, I think we can still have all those nice salty cured flavors. And that can be acquired with some decent sliced ham or some mortadella, and you've got versatility both in texture and flavor between those two. And you can also control that cost by ordering at the deli counter. Now, although not the same, a nice summer sausage could take the place of the salami as a potentially cheaper option since you'd buy the whole thing and slice it to your liking. Now, for the pickly briny part, sure, we can do some olives, which you could go ultra expensive with Castle Vetranos, which I marinate in an infused olive oil. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to flex so much. It's just culinary so vast and beautiful, and I just want to show you all. You could also go much cheaper with bulk deli marinated olives. Now for a pickle, while cornichons are lovely to eat and look at, they do get a bit more expensive, especially if they're the nice kind. The cheaper option would be to make your own pickles. For a simple pickled onion, just snag yourself a nice plump red onion, slice it thinly and beautifully like so. Place all that in a 1-quart mason jar or any large container that isn't metal. Separately in a medium-sized pot, add 2 cups or 480 milliliters of white vinegar, 1 cup or 240 milliliters of water, and 2 tablespoons or 25 grams of kosher salt. Bring that up to a boil over medium-high heat, then as soon as it hits a boil, immediately take it off the heat and pour it over your onions. It should just about cover the onions. I also like to use some plastic wrap to adhere to the surface of the liquid to keep everything submerged. Then just let that bad boy rest at room temp until completely cool. It'll turn a lovely little pink color. Then store that bad boy in the fridge or, use it. Okay, crunch is one of the most important elements to any cheese board in my opinion. Nuts are an obvious option. Those can sit with pistachios, candied nuts, or even some fancy olive oil crackers, which get extremely pricey. Now, a cheaper option for your nut, you knew it was gonna happen, would be just simple toasted peanuts, which in my opinion work just fine on a cheese board, although they're not my top choice. Now for an intensely delicious and cheaper option, I'd also recommend getting yourself a baguette and slicing it into rounds. Place it on a baking sheet and toss it in the oven around 375 till nice and toasted. Pull those bad boys out, get a clove of garlic, slice it in half to expose a fresh cut edge, then rub that end all over each slice of the bread. You're perfuming it. Then get yourself a tomato, slice that in half, and do the exact same thing, just like scrub it all over there. And it sounds weird, trust me. You're essentially getting a really lovely garlicky tomato toast that's deep and rich in flavor, but not destructive on the wallet. Last but not least is the fruity and sweet components. Now this could be in the form of a beautiful chunk of honeycomb, which although beautiful and delicious, this thing cost me like $15 alone. Personally, I think a nice jam, ideally homemade, will fit nicely with any cheese board, and I do have a recipe here both on my YouTube and my TikTok. Sorry for the plug. Now look, I like expensive bougie fruits on my charcuterie board, so these lovely little champagne grapes are great, but they're also, well, expensive. If you want to keep that price low, I'd really recommend hitting up the Apple section, not like iPhones, but getting yourself some Granny Smith apples. They do 2 things. They add a little crunch and they add a beautiful tart sweetness to your board. Now the last thing we need to figure out is this cream cheese situation. You could serve it as is, but for 1, ugly. For 2, I personally think a nice little habanero serrano gastrique would fit beautifully on there. It's easier than you think. Simply combine 1 cup or 225 grams of granulated sugar and 1 cup or 240 milliliters of water in a small pot, bring that to a boil over high heat, and let that boil until it becomes a little bit syrupy. Should look like this. About 5 minutes. Separately, thinly slice 2 habanero chilies, 1 serrano chili, thinly slice a shallot over a mandolin. Once your mixture is ready, let it cool for 3 minutes, then pour your gastrique over your vegetables, hit it with some fresh cracked black pepper, and let it sit until completely cool. It's sour, sweet, aromatic, and lightly spicy. And it goes shockingly well with cheese or really anything. Now at this point, I think we can go ahead and assemble our boards. The goal is to arrange the things that go the best together closest to each other, if that makes sense. But of course it gets a little bit cramped, so just let everything fall naturally into place. Honestly, everything should go well together here. Keep wiggling and maneuvering till your little man is nice and ready to go. You'll know when it's done. The board will call out to you. Now serve this to your guests, toss an ice cube in your Chardonnay. That's a joke for all the moms out there. And let's see if this affordable board can hold up a candle.
We have Mr. Expensive right here coming in at this price. And then we have Mr. Cheap coming in at this price. It's a spicy meatball of a difference. Sure, you could probably pick out which is the cheaper one because you can see a block of cream cheese on here. But in terms of how voluminous it is and visually, it's a big thumbs up times 2. These are normally a choose your own adventure. The point is to mix and match sweet, salty, crunchy, fatty, get a little bit of everything. Cracker, a little piece of Gouda. It's pronounced Hara. Ah! Ooh, and I'll get a little bit of this honey. Ah! And then maybe one pistachio nut.
Oh, Andy Rochelle! Pickle! Team effort! One team, one goal!
It's almost exactly the same as when you're watching Star Wars and people are in the cockpit and then they go into hyperspeed and they're like, because it hits like all of your senses and your dopamine receptors like, bah, bah, bah. Onto the cheap one. Cream cheese. We topped it with a chili gastrique. That's pretty culinary full flexion right there. That experience alone is wonderful. We got our tomato toast, little piece of mortadella on there, do a little cheddar. That's a good vibe. The depth of flavor in this is insane. It has a sense of nobility to it almost. Even if you are a fancy person, this has a complex flavor. This has complex textures. If that ain't but cheaper, I don't know what the hell is. Okay, so if you don't want to spend like over $100, this is the way to go.
But you want to know what else is covered with cheese, sticky stuff, and all sorts of random things from across the supermarket? B-roll.
Alright guys, and that is it. So we made 2 charcuterie boards, one that was very affordable for this price and one that was much more expensive for this price. Now, they're both equally desirable in their own way. Like I could definitely see a moment where maybe I want the cheaper one over the more expensive one if I want something a little more relaxed and less like pow, 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 pow. You know? The point is I didn't need a ton of money to make that beautiful thing happen. You just need a little bit of patience, a little bit of love, and good old noggin. I hope this one is helpful for a lot of people. I know a lot of college students out there want to have their charcuterie board and sit back and enjoy, and here you go. That's a very relevant meme right now. So with all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.
Downy Light adds a gentle, nature-inspired scent to your wash to breathe